What's up guys, welcome to Wasted Space, and today we've got another Planets competition entry. But this one's a bit more tricky because I know a lot of you guys are going to have already seen it. Aaron from LSG has already done a video on this, but given it's such a mad design and more importantly, probably one of the most crazy things that's been sent in for the Planets competition, we're going to have to dive in and have a look anyway. So hopefully you can bear with me and I can talk a bit about exactly how this thing works. So in front of me is the Buzzard Tiltrotor by Hello There One. Very impressive design. Looks very cool, yep, sexy lines, nice doors, all cool stuff. Let's show the doors. There you go. They open upwards, they open downwards. Very cool, but more importantly is what's going on with these engines. Because as you'll note pretty quickly, that's 4 rotors. And then underneath that 4 rotors is another rotor and a wheel for separation, and then down here there's another rotor. So these things are just a massive clang. There's even a rotor on the wrong side. So, what's the point behind this? Well, the point behind this is there isn't a thruster on this ship anywhere, nor is there a gyro on this ship anywhere. This is completely controlled, completely driven, all of the thrust is powered by Digi's aerodynamic wings and a really just insanely clever script. So, easiest way to demonstrate this is actually to go and get in, but before we do so, one of the important things to note is you'll see that these rotors that the, what do you want to call them, rotor blades are on, are not pointing directly upwards. They're all angled slightly and leaning slightly inwards, and this is really important. It's that that's going to be generating the lift that's actually going to power this thing and take it off the ground in the first place. So if we jump in, he's done a good job of actually the aesthetics of the whole thing, basically set up as a transport vehicle with a number of ways of boarding and unloading in and out of it. Pretty cool, I like the design, but more importantly, I love how it actually functions. So we've got Whip's Artificial Horizon mod, that's going to be really important. And then on the left, we've got our controls. And the reason we've got controls listed is you'll notice that we've got WAS and D on pitch and yaw, and Q and E on roll. That's not normally how these things work. Normally, you'd be controlling it with your mouse. But if we go to the outside and I move my mouse around, you'll notice absolutely nothing is happening. We are actually in a passenger seat. We're not in a cockpit. So the way this works is by using Digi's control module. So if we go in, we can see down here with all the programming information, we've got Digi's control module, and this is basically binding a whole bunch of key inputs to the script that's loaded into this programming block. I can't hope to explain what the hell this script is doing, other than it is incredibly clever once you see it in action, and he has properly annotated everything in here. You kind of get an idea of what's going on. And more importantly, he's also bothered to say, for example, here we have a little bit that's actually not his own, and he's fully credited it in there so I know exactly what's going on with this script, and everything down to this line is his own work. What does it all do? Not very exciting looking at the text, but what it does is mean that, for example, I can press X, and that will start all of our rotors going. And not only that, but you'll notice the rotors, they're counter-rotating for balance. This will keep the craft stable as it moves. They're also just about interfacing with each other without hitting each other. So there is a quite big overlap on these sides, and it is eventually going to end up causing a little bit of a problem. But fortunately, not quite yet. So we've hit X, we've got our engines on. Now again, I'm moving my mouse around, nothing is happening. No gyroscopes, no thrusters. If we go into the K menu, we can search for thrust, and you'll see there's nothing there. Search for gyro, nothing there. So the next thing to do, hold space to go up. And what this is going to do is speed up the rotors. The easiest way to demonstrate this is if we look down here, he's actually got the rotor RPM written down on this. And as I hold space, you can see that rotor RPM increases. And all the while we're in this position, what the ship is trying to do is hold itself level. So it's trying to keep itself level, and if I use space, it'll adjust ourselves upwards a little bit, and if I use C to go down, it'll adjust ourselves downwards a little bit, and that's what the sort of space bar is doing in this case, is it's speeding up our rotors. Then if we were to turn, you can see in this position, I should probably put the landing gear away, press R to do that. Digi's control module, really cool, means you can bind all these funky things to whatever you want. Landing gear away, and as we turn here, you can see all of the rotors are going to angle to help that turn. So not only do we have our rudders on the back that are doing the normal job of what you'd get in a plane, but you've also got these engine pods on either side that are all constantly working to control the craft. Now, the maths behind figuring this out must be utterly crazy. I don't understand it myself. What I do understand is this vehicle flies properly with no thrusters, no gyros, just aerodynamic wings and rotors and this script. So this is all well and good. You can imagine that if we wanted to go forward, we could lean forward a bit, and the ship would, like a helicopter, start to move forward. We could hold ourselves up with space just to speed up the rotors, kind of give ourselves a bit more control. But that's not really how you want to fly it. What you want to do instead, and you can also see as I press W and S to tilt up and down, again, the rotors are moving to give us this movement. This isn't gyros, this isn't anything but those rotors and their position. But this is all well and good. If I now hold shift, we can control the position of those rotors. So we're going to put it into forwards flight mode. Hold that down, they go the whole way, and now you can see that not only is it trying to, A, pull us forwards like you'd expect a plane, but it's changed how all of the controls now interface with those rotors on the sides. So if I press space now, so it's a little bit glitchy because of the rotors flinging around, but if I press space now, that's now designed to increase the speed we're traveling, and I can keep holding it to make us go faster and faster. You can see down in the bottom right, it goes up to about 70 meters a second. It doesn't seem to go much quicker than that, and I can hold control to slow us back down again. No longer are those doing up and down movements. On top of that, all of the movements that are being translated to these rotors have now changed a bit. So instead, now when we press left and right to turn, it's just using the rudders. The engines are not paying any attention to that now. It's the rudders that are responsible for turning in this mode. Vice versa, Q and E is now done by angling the rotors on the two ends. I mean, I could talk crazily about all the different bits and bobs and the way it reacts. The point of this is, it is an incredibly clever script that goes so far as even allowing me to have engines in the halfway position like this, where they're kind of a bit of both, and still works. So I can have it in this halfway house and it still kind of knows what's going on with all the different directions to translate that into movements. So let's go into full forward speed mode, and if I jump into the pilot's view, get our camera down a little bit so we can see the artificial horizon as well, because that's actually kind of important. I'll give you an example of how flyable this thing actually is, and you'd imagine it's a clang monster, and to some extent that is correct. I tried to get people together in multiplayer to record a bit of video for this last night. 4 people, 4 tilt rotors, and that was enough to bring the entire game to its knees. Sim speed down to like 0.3, lots and lots of problems with the multiplayer clients trying to get in and out of the vehicles, trying to start the rotors and so on. So this is definitely, while it's got a lot of cargo and a lot of seats in the back, not really something that you could use in multiplayer at the moment, which is a shame. How many times are we saying with Space Engineers, God, I wish that this could be used in multiplayer safely. Unfortunately, in this case, as you probably imagine, not really. However, as a little single player toy and something you can mess around with, incredibly clever, especially if you consider that, as I said, no gyros, no thrusters. This is being controlled and flown purely by aerodynamic wings. I didn't even think they were capable of doing this, honestly. I'd messed around with trying to stick them on rotors like a helicopter. I'd just never done the slight angle of the blades themselves in order to create the lift we needed, because clearly I'm not clever enough. This guy, however, Mr. Hello there, he is, and he's created a pretty damn awesome design. So there you go, guys. I did my best to try and explain what on earth he's done with this thing, and more importantly, reiterate the idea that it's not behaving anything like a normal Space Engineer's craft does, and yet it is behaving exactly like a Space Engineer's craft does. It's doing exactly what you expect. At some point, and I mentioned this earlier, the rotors do eventually end up colliding. There will be a bit of desync or something happens with your game, it goes slow enough and you can see how they're very close to each other, they almost touch, eventually one of them will. And when that happens, as you can imagine, I'll try and stick some footage up, it's fairly impressive. I've actually been playing with destructible blocks turned off for all of the recording for this, just because it was easier to not mess up so hard. But you get an idea that if you had destructible blocks on, you're gonna tear yourself into pieces. Hey, anyway, there you go, folks. Pretty nuts design. This competition is coming out with some of the most crazy. I can't believe this. Last year, with the competition, I had to get rid of the scripting category because there weren't any entries. So I did that the same this year, and then so far, all of the really crazy entries, the ones that make you go, what? Have involved scripting on a very high level. Like, all of them have involved a script that's been custom made by the guy who sent it in. Shows how much I know. Hope you enjoyed this one, guys. Hope you enjoyed this mad creation. Link, as usual, is down in the video description, so please go and check that out. Give Hello there a little bit of love for coming up with such a truly mad design. And as I attempt to... Oh, Perfect, there we go. And as I was going to end with a landing, but instead she'll end with a lovely demonstration of space engineers at work. See if yeah, we've lost one of the rotors now, so she's dead in the air. I shall say thanks a lot for watching, folks. If you did like it, please hit that like button. Please hit subscribe. It does really help me in the channel out. If you didn't like it, you know where that dislike button is. And otherwise, thanks a lot for watching, folks. I'll catch you for the next one. Flawless landing. We can rebuild him. We have the technology.